Understanding the Seals of Revelation, Part 3 of 4. The third rider on a black horse with a pair of scales, and the fourth rider on a pale green horse. The colors of the four horsemen of Revelation: white, red, black, and pale green, the colors of Islam in the Middle East. The Bible says there are four horsemen in the seals of Revelation: Mohammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. The Bible is very clear. It literally says these four are on horseback. The Bible says authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth. The seals of Revelation deal with human events. The trumpets of Revelation deal with events in the spiritual world. They are not sequential, but overlap in time. Listen carefully to these warnings from Jesus Christ. Only Jesus Christ is worthy to open the scroll and look inside. Jesus has revealed that the four horsemen of Revelation are the first four Islamic leaders: Mohammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. Now we will look at the rider on the black horse with a pair of scales, who was Umar. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Listen carefully to what Jesus is revealing here. Jesus says for a day's work, the worker will owe 2 pounds of wheat. A day's wage was 20 pounds of wheat. Therefore, this is a 10% tax on the worker. Just as Jesus said, some 550 years before Umar was born, Umar instituted a brand new Islamic tax of 10% on all crops. The pair of scales in the rider's hands is used to calculate the tax. Umar did not tax olive oil or wine, also just as Jesus said would happen. Jesus is perfectly accurate with this prophecy. Here are the rules of the Islamic tax from Umar. There are 9 items that can be taxed: wheat, barley, dates, grapes, meaning raisins, gold, silver, sheep, cows, and camels. Listen carefully to what Jesus said, "And do not damage the oil and the wine." Here is a recent news article about an Islamic jihadist group trying to tax olive oil. The olive farmers complained that Umar's tax did not include oil. Listen carefully to what Jesus is revealing. Many prophecy writers, using their own interpretations, have thought this prophecy relates to some type of famine. What Jesus is telling us is a 10% tax, 2 pounds of wheat, out of the 20 pounds of wheat that would be a day's wages. There is much more Bible prophecy concerning Umar. Umar fulfilled all of the prophecies given in Daniel chapter 11, verse 36 through 45. The prophecies given by Jesus are exact. The king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed, for what has been determined must take place. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors, or for the one desired by women, nor will he regard any god, but will exalt himself above them all. Umar said unheard of things against the God of gods. Here is what Umar said about Jesus: "I do not know of a greater thing as regard to ascribing partners in worship to Allah than that a lady should say that Jesus is her Lord, as Jesus is just one of Allah's slaves." Umar was a polytheist and worshipped the gods of his ancestors until Muhammad taught him about the new God, Allah. We see this then in verses 38 and 39. Instead of them, he will honor a god of fortresses, a god unknown to his ancestors. He will honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. He will attack the mightiest fortresses with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. He will make them rulers over many people, and will distribute the land at a price. Just as Jesus said, Umar distributed the land for a price. He allowed the conquered people to stay on the new Islamic lands, but in return, they had to pay some of their crops to the Islamic State. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against him with many chariots and cavalry and a great fleet of ships. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood. He will also invade the beautiful land. Many countries will fall, but Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. Jesus says many countries will fall. Here is a list of the victories by Umar: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Eastern Anatolia, Egypt, Iraq, North Africa, Palestine, Persia, Sistan, and Syria. Umar defeated 3 kings. He defeated the king of the Eastern Roman Empire, he defeated the king of Persia, and he defeated the king of Afghanistan. Just as the Bible says, Umar invaded the beautiful land and conquered Jerusalem. There is still a mosque in Jerusalem today named for Umar. Despite his many battlefield victories, Umar did not conquer Edom, Moab, or the leaders of Ammon. He will extend his power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. He will gain control of the treasures of gold and silver and all the riches of Egypt, with the Libyans and Cushites in submission. Umar defeated Egypt, the Libyans, and also the Cushites. Umar destroyed the Alexandria Library, which was the greatest treasure of Egypt. Here is the quote from the historian. It is to be mentioned that this pillar was one of the pillars used to support the hallway of Aristotle, who used to teach wisdom in it. It was a house of learning, the Library of Alexandria, which Emir ibn Az burned on the commandment of Umar. May Allah be pleased with him. The prophecies from Jesus continue to be perfectly accurate, but reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas at the beautiful holy mountain, yet he will come to his end, and no one will help him. Umar fought the Byzantine Empire to the north and the Persian Empire to the east. He pitched his tent right at the base of the Temple Mount. Just as the Bible said, Umar came to his end and no one would help him. Umar died in 644, the victim of an assassin's dagger. His killer was a Persian slave who is said to have held a personal grudge against Umar. He stabbed Umar 6 times as Umar led prayers in the mosque in Medina and then committed suicide. The people could only watch, and no one came to Umar's aid. Umar died 2 days later and was buried alongside Mohammad and Abu Bakr. Uthman was elected as his successor. There are still 2 more important Bible prophecies concerning Umar. The kingdom of Allah is the 4th beast, and Umar is also mentioned in Daniel chapter 7. He gave me this explanation. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will rise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times, and half a time. He will change the set times and the laws. Umar invented the Islamic calendar, and Umar is considered the greatest jurist of Sharia law. The Islamic author unknowingly included the pair of scales which belonged to Umar, the rider on the black horse. Also included is the Shahada, the mark of the beast. Now let's look at the fourth rider on a pale green horse, whose name was Uthman. Umar came to his end and no one would help him, and Umar died in 644. He was then replaced by Uthman. When the Lamb broke the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, "Come." I looked, and behold, an ashen, pale green horse, and the one who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword and famine and plague, and by the wild animals of the earth. Jesus reveals to us the color of the horse. The color is pale green. Some Bible translations, such as the King James and the NIV, translate it as pale, but the actual Greek word in the original text is chloros, which means pale green. Chloros is where we get the word chlorophyll from, which is the color of plants. One of the things Uthman did was to gather up different versions of the Quran, burning all but one copy. This produced the final version of the Quran. Just as Jesus said, the Four Horsemen had authority over 1/4 of the earth. Some prophecy experts say that they killed 1/4 of the earth, but that is not what Jesus reveals. Jesus reveals that they had authority over 1/4 of the earth. At its greatest extent, the Umayyad Caliphate covered 5.8 million square miles and included 62 million people, which was 29% of the world's population at that time. If you are a Muslim or a person who is confused about the Jesus of the Quran versus the Jesus of the Bible, do not worry. The words of Jesus are always true. Jesus is the Son of God, and He came into this world to save you so that you can be reunited back with your Father who created you.